It was May 2020. And I remember we had just started having weekly Zoom gatherings with our group of girlfriends. So there was 5 of us. And we had always been the annual girls weekend, and we've been friends for a long time, but we had never been as consistent as when that pandemic happened. I look back at that as such a gift to our friendship, because all of a sudden we all had time. We had time to be on Zoom. And so we all committed to every Sunday. I remember back in the day, it was kind of innocent commitment, because we were like, through the pandemic, thinking it would be like 2 weeks or a month or 2 months. We were like, let's meet on Zoom every Sunday. And now 4 years later, we still do that, which is amazing. But I remember we had been meeting weekly for, I don't know, maybe it wasn't that long, maybe a month. And Krista, you showed up and you said, I made a really big decision this week that I've decided I'm going to stop drinking. And I think you were like 2 or 3 days in or something like that at that point, and you were kind of shared it with us kind of as a, I don't remember it being like some huge announcement. I just feel like you just kind of like shared it as your weekly share a little bit. But how do you remember feeling in that moment, and what led up to that moment? And did it feel like a huge announcement to you in that moment, or were you scared? I'm just so eager to hear what it felt like
I'm
to be
trying to
you.
put myself back in that moment to remember, but I know kind of what led up to it was, I think I always have been somebody who wants harmony and peace and hates any kind of conflict. And so I think I had my way of avoiding and dealing with any negative feeling, anger, anxiety, sadness, was to avoid it and to try to avoid conflict with other people. And so sort of my method probably for dealing with that was drinking alcohol. And I think it was a mostly internal problem in a way, because I think I managed it very well on the outside, and probably most people didn't know that it was a problem for me. But internally, I think it was just creating a lot of kind of adding to by calming my outer conflict, I was creating more internal conflict. And I think it was not something, it was something I had thought about for years in a way, but had never wanted to say it out loud to myself, and certainly not to anybody else. And so I think it probably came as a little bit of a surprise to my friends, but I felt like I had to, in order to follow through, I had to tell somebody that I was making that commitment. Mm-hmm. And I had told my husband, and then I wasn't sure. I remember getting on the call and thinking I should tell them, and I think I waited until the very end of the call, and
The very end.
kind of dropped it and ran. No, I mean, I think it used a lot of, I mean, we all had big things going on. It was during the pandemic. We were all dealing with a lot. And
Yes.
probably
Yeah.
as somebody who doesn't
Yeah.
like to bring all the attention to myself, I just kept waiting and thinking, oh, maybe there'll be a good moment. But then at the very end, I sort of remember kind of a panicky feeling, like if I don't say it now, I might not follow through. And I knew you were the kind of friends that would, not hold me to something I didn't want, but would hold me to something I did want. And so it felt like I wanted something sort of, I think I just wanted like the magic wand that would make me feel kind of normal again. I think I felt when I shared it, I think I felt a little bit of like vulnerability hangover, despite the fact that we have a very vulnerable friendship.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big thing to say. And you hadn't said it out loud. You hadn't practiced. Like in some ways, we were your practice place for saying that. Yeah. And we didn't, to your point, we didn't see your drinking as a problem. It didn't impact our friendship. It wasn't like we were all having conversations about needing to intervene or anything like that. Like, I love how you are talking about it. Like, it was something you were doing to kind of numb your feelings, but that wasn't something that it didn't impact us in a negative way. And it was almost more like I look back on that and wonder, and I know we talked about it in ensuing weeks, so it wasn't just this one conversation, but I was like, I remember being nervous about, am I making too big of a deal about this or not enough big enough deal about this, like trying, because I feel like the way, and I'm trying to remember too, going back to that conversation, I almost felt like it was in the context of like, I'm giving up drinking, but it was kind of the same way that somebody might say, I'm not eating sugar right now. It was kind of, it didn't feel like this huge proclamation at the time. I don't remember you being like, it wasn't like I'm never drinking again. It was a very like, I'm just giving up alcohol and wanting to get in touch with my feelings. So it felt like a very gentle announcement to me at the time, but I remember not knowing. And that's like, this is why I love asking this and kind of being like, to you, the scariest part was saying it out loud, but you were almost more wanting to be accountable to yourself more than you were being scared of us rejecting you or something like that. It was just the fear of like having us all now start asking you about this thing.
I think I both was afraid. I think I was partly afraid that you might hold me accountable for something that I ended up not wanting to do, which maybe was why I made it a more gentle announcement.
Fair enough.
And I also was sort of afraid of you saying, it's not a big deal, everyone does something, kind of, and I think...
Yeah.
I know I've said this before, but I think you just let it be as big and as small as I wanted it to be. And I didn't, I think the thing that's hard is it changes what you want one day, at some points I think I wish you had asked me more questions and kind of asked like, what does this mean to you? How do you, kind of asked me more questions to help me explore that. And then at other times, when you asked me a direct question about my drinking, I felt like I don't want to talk about this, So I mean, I think it's hard because when you don't even know what you want, or when what you want is changing at different points, your friends can't always give you what you want. I mean, did you feel like I had been hiding a part of myself from you, or that I had not been fully sharing?
That's a great question. At the moment, I don't remember feeling that way. I was so proud of you because the way you framed it was, I feel like I'm not in touch with my feelings. I want to know, I feel like I'm coming home and kind of numbing myself more than I am like processing and feeling the things. And because we've been friends for so long, we've all journeyed. We all know each other's like areas of growth and struggle. And like you were saying, for you, one of yours is like feeling the anger and expressing it, feeling the sadness and expressing it, and knowing that your feelings matter and that they aren't, that we want them. So I feel like to me, it was a step of amazing growth. It wasn't like an area of growth that I've been thinking, oh, I hope she gets to this point or anything like that. Like I didn't have an agenda where that needed to be, but the way you framed it, I was like, good for you. Like, good job. Like, oh my goodness, this is a big thing. This is a hard step to say in order to like feel your feelings. Like, and during that time, none of us wanted to feel our feelings. So, as the rest of the world's drinking was going up, yours is like stopping, which was something I was so impressed with you for. But yeah, as we did talk more about it over the following months and year, to hear some of the stories of how you framed certain things that had happened in your life as moments where you had felt like you had used drinking to step out of something, that was like new information for us. And in that sense, I didn't feel hurt that you hadn't shared all of that. But I do remember feeling excited that now we were getting to see this side of you that we hadn't gotten to see, that you probably had felt like you had to hide from yourself all that time too, So in some ways it gave us this whole new portal into seeing you, and it was a really beautiful you.